Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna share this. We're gonna get underway. All right, guys, and I'm back. So I'm gonna start this out from the beginning. So all my new listeners, I got some new subscribers. Shout out to all 20-something of y'all that subscribed. I think it was like 23 or something. So shout out to you guys. You guys are the shit. All right, I curse a lot. So if you've ever been here with me, I curse sometimes. Not a lot, but sometimes. They caught this motherfucker. The Brooklyn subway shooter. Peace, what's going on? 305 Capricorn on the check-in. Yeah, they caught this motherfucker. And I'm glad they caught him. I am. I truly am. But here, I'm going to take y'all for a spin. If this shit is really what it is. And I got a funny feeling about that. See, all my life I done lived in the New York City tri-state. I done been all around this motherfucker. Jersey, New York, and of course, Connecticut, my home. And it's been my home for the longest. Decades. So, one of the things that sits funny to me, it may not sit funny to a lot of other people across the country, is where they caught this man. Now, they virtually caught this man. I want to tell you guys, they virtually caught this man in the same train line as they did where he did the shooting. And only if you live in a New York City tri-state, and only if you travel and live in a New York City tri-state would you know this train route. So I say to you guys, there's something fishy here. Now, I'm gonna fast forward here, the premise, but you're gonna get what I'm talking about here. I think there's an underlying factor here, and I'm gonna tell you what that underlying factor is. There's a couple proponents here that would cause this atrocity to go from, not saying that one is less severe than the other. What's going on, Anton Queen already? What's funny is, this comes on the heels of almost 5 different incidents where people were pushed in front of subway trains. And they couldn't afford to let another one of those happen. Because if you let another one of those happen there, what happens is you now get a reciprocity of the smaller in comparison, because 10 people were shot here. And the incidents with people getting pulled in front of the subway, not to say they're less severe, but it's only one person getting harmed, unfortunately. Shout out to Arizona. So one of the funny things is this. I think there's a twist to this. And I think if it's not a twist and it was something that was planned in the conspiracy guys, and I'm only saying in the conspiracy guys here, but if it was something that wasn't planned, like, you know, we film movies in New York City. You know what I mean? I filmed in New York City. I've been on shows that are filmed in New York City, in Times Square, you know? So, multiple ones. So my point is this. If I would have to say anything, I would say as a mayor, and a mayor that was an ex-police chief, you know a little bit initiative of what it takes and what was a front runner, and you getting, well, if you want to say elected to the constituency there, whatever that constituency may make up in the New York City area, it's willing to bet that you're trying to reinstate something. And I know what that little thing is. It's called stop and frisk. Now, a lot of you might think that I'm going to the far end here, and I'm assuming, but I got a quite of a gist that might be what's going on. And these are my words, so please quote me as my words. Whether you agree with them or don't agree with them, I sent unto my sentiment. And I'm confined to be adamant in my sentiment here. A couple of years back, under 10 years, they removed stop and frisk in New York City for various different reasons. A lot of people like to say that's because of minorities, but that's not the case. Really, a lot of it stemmed from women and them being accosted by male officers, which there were several lawsuits for that. You can look at the New York City Police Union and they'll show reflection of that in that period of time. This was more the time when Bloomberg was in office, doing his constituency. They removed such law at that time, or amendment to a law, and would impose them to be able to use this option, if you want to say, in law enforcement. And they removed it. Now, like I said, once again, the bulk of it was from a set of lawsuits that came from women that were accosted by male officers, and a lot of it came from illegal immigrants. Where you had people like, what are they, INS and all these guys going in there they would come on raids. I lived in no, this was when I was in the Bronx. When I lived in the Bronx, I lived on up there by Boston Road. I ain't gonna tell you exactly where, but by Boston Road. And I watched as they had a team in a van. I'm sorry, y'all got a bug in my eye. I watched as they had a team in a van and they came on the raid and they beat the fuck out this guy because he started arguing. Guys saying in English, clean English, hey, I've been here for about 15 years now. You know what I'm saying? I work in Manhattan. He was talking in plain English. He wasn't using Spanish. He was talking in English. So let me know he had been here for a while, right? Well, because of those lawsuits and the lawsuits of women on male police officers accosting them, there was a time when there was about 2 or 3 other settlements that had just been passed. You can look this up in New York City statute. You go to the Department of Justice, look this up. You can go to the Policemen's Union of New York City and look up the same information. It's readily available to the public. It's not a secret or a conspiracy theory. This was what was going on in those years in that time period. And the payouts that they did, they even put a cap on lawsuits later on in New York City based off this same behavior. Now, there were some black people and Latinos that got their money too, but it wasn't in the preponderance that these people were getting it. And at the time, the New York Post wrote an article about this, which I went and validated before I hopped on here. The New York Post wrote an article about it, and they were talking about the same thing. You can find that article by just simply Googling it. All right? Now, I want y'all to stay right there. So they get rid of stop and frisk. And now you have a city that's going wild after a pandemic has been over. Well, stated as over, but ain't officially over. So now you got another catastrophe on your hands that's mirror and reminiscent of the 1980s. This is like Times Square in the 80s, you know what I mean? Everybody's out there selling cocaine and, you know, doing bumps and shit, partying it live, you know, going to Studio 51. That's how New York City is right now. That's why I tell you, all my viewers across the country, if you have the chance to come to anywhere in the Northeast, come to Connecticut, all right? I invite you here. But don't go to fucking New York City, all right? Don't go to New York City. Trust me on this. Do not go there if you have never been there. Now, if you live in the tri-state area, that's different. You're accustomed to the ways that we have up here, things you should and shouldn't be looking for up here, things like that. And it's a totally different ball game. Y'all please hit those like buttons. The likes ain't matching the amount of people in here. I'm trying to tell y'all something. Now, skipping all the formalities and all the explanations, this incident is a reason to bring back stop and frisk. And they're doing it right in front of your face. Now, I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. And it's going to affect everybody like it once did. It'll affect everybody. You get these little groups that get in there and they do more damage than they do good because they want to point out the specific niches. Nah, there's one root problem. You need to take care of that, eradicate that. Then you won't have to worry about those or go down like dominoes. None of these guys, except for Dick Gregory, Martin Luther King, he had it. Malcolm X, he had it. Who else can I say had it? He just didn't get the opportunity. Cornel West, he understands it. He comes from those guys. And there's a couple other people I can name. James Baldwin, he got it. Eartha Kitt, she got it. With an incident like this, I got to throw in, Eartha Kitt died right next door in Greenwich, Connecticut. Where one thing that falls in play here is this incident and what was left behind. This motherfucker left away the keys to the getaway car. He left behind the bag, the duffel bag, one of the duffel bags that had explosives in it, or federal grade fireworks, which could be basically the same thing as explosion. You let a whole bag of them off, which I think were his intentions. He had a smoke grenade. He left the canister behind. He left behind a gun that jammed after firing so many shots, reportedly. He left behind a gun. This man drove, we haven't figured out, from either Wisconsin, Arizona, or Pennsylvania. And they say his last 2 residencies were in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, right? And there's a possibility, because I've read at U-Hauls before, that if you get the U-Haul from one state, you could drop it off in another state. and they'll return it eventually. Now, with all that set aside, right? They catch this guy in Midtown Manhattan. Well, down in Midtown, going under the bridge, going towards Brooklyn. That's where they caught him at. And if I had to make a guess, because every last reporter, which more and so points to something is funny here, is because of pure simple fact, every time that they get in front of the subway station where they caught this man, yes, they say he was in the subway. Every time they get in front of the subway where they say they caught this man, they make sure to corner off which street it is. And it just says station. Anybody in New York City tri-state area, y'all know what I'm talking about. It'll say Dyer Street Station or Rector Street Station, so on and so forth, right? Ludlow Station, Canal Street Station, blah, blah. They cut it off so you can't see nothing but station. I challenge you to go look right now and you'll see the same thing. If you see some independent person, they don't count. I'm talking about somebody that's in the media, ABC, CBS, ABC, I'm calling all you fuckers out. CNN, Fox, you did the same thing. Because I look before I start talking. Sometimes I talk before I look, but I'm usually 80% right. But this one I had to look before I talked, because I need to know all the factors. Now, with all that said and gone, we got a nice little conspiracy fiction. I like to call it conspiracy fiction, because of pure simple fact, it might possibly make sense. And a lot of possibilities in the past have come to fruition and been true. Once had a theory that the earth was flat. You know what I mean? So theories are always segues to realities a lot of times, including relativity and gravity, distance from the sun and Mars, etc., etc. So in a theoretical sense, right, guys? Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm gonna read all your comments in a second. Give me a second. I just don't want to lose train of thought. With all that being set aside, right? Shout out to Arizona. One of the things that pointed out to me that this might be a faux fucking story is the fact that they caught him, I'm believing, based on, I got to see the letters of one of them, and it said R. So I deduced it down to the end of the R and the line that they run, and I said to myself, that's Rector Street. And there's a reason why every last one of these different reporters, whether it be ABC, whether it be NBC, whether it be CBS, CNN did the same thing. Wherever they're at the station where they're announcing that this man had been captured, they all block off the name of the street, and instead the public crowd sees nothing but station. Now this is nationwide. And it might be a deterrent to have, like, you know, YouTubers and everybody like that not coming over there, but more preferably, I'm gonna go with the notion of this. There's a reason behind this. Now, there's no way in hell that a man is running around the city for 29 hours and he was that articulate in his planning. He leaves behind numerous different things. I left out an axe. He left behind an axe, actually, as well. So I left out the axe. How could I forget the axe? He leaves behind an axe. He has a jam gun. He has federal grade explosives that he leaves behind. He leaves behind, what else? A keys to a U-Haul that purportedly could be rented in 3 different locations and demographics. We're talking Arizona plates, so it could have been rented in Arizona. This is U-Haul, so you could drop those things off anywhere. You drop them off anywhere. You're driving to Missouri, you drop it off the Missouri U-Haul. They'll get it back. Now, with all that said, this man had 29 hours to finagle, move around, scoot around, have a beer, think things over. My life is 62, part 3. You know what I mean? You know, that was a part 1. What am I going to do now? Then a part 2, damn, I might have to do the extreme. Then a part 3, fuck it. Y'all might think I'm mumbling or whatever the case may be. But what I'm trying to tell y'all is, this man was captured, but I don't think you'll ever hear about this man or see this man ever again. And I put that in linear fashion with the guy. Remember the guy that was out in North Dakota, I think it was? It was some Hokaboke town I had never fucking heard of in my life, and most of us hadn't. And the guy ran through and plowed through a whole people that were doing a parade, a Christmas parade in fucking November, if I'm right, which was odd enough. But I said, okay, and we never saw that guy in the news again. Out of Sacramento, which I'm familiar with, California, shout out to California. In Sacramento, if any of y'all not familiar with California, Sacramento has always had its shits and giggles, but now it's shit, giggle, shit, as it has in the past 10 years. It's a very different place, and so is San Francisco. Now, knowing California, one thing you know about California, and me previously living in Miami, one thing you know about those locales is the heat affects people's temperament. You know what I mean? People think crazy shit out there. That's why a lot of crazy shit happens. Have a conversation with somebody in California or anywhere that peninsula from Erie all the way down to Las Vegas. I think Erie and Colorado are the weirdest. You know, I met a couple of them in LA. It was just some weird vibes. But nevertheless, not talking against anybody because I got viewers from everywhere. It's damn near 10,000 of y'all. I'm not dissing LA. I'm not dissing, you know, wherever you live, Utah, rural state, whatever. You know what I mean? Don't start that shit. Cancel him. Get rid of him. Finish him. Don't start that shit. But what I'm saying to you guys, back to the premise of the story, this guy had 29 hours to run around the city. And he didn't find himself no further than the same fucking train line he committed the atrocities on. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on. And the outcome of this is, I think what you'll probably, and this is my prediction, what you'll probably hear Mayor Adams say, a former police chief, salute to him. I always talk about military because most of my family's from military. You know what I mean? 2 generations now. So, but what I'll say is this. If he does do this, and what I think he's going to do is he's going to reinstate stop and frisk. I think that's the terminology you put it. And once he restarts stop and frisk, you now have a reason. You can accompany this with the subway tragedies that happened prior. I think it was like 5 of them. The last one being a lady that was pushed in front of the train in Midtown Manhattan. When you hear stories like this nationally, you're often a deterrent. You're often a deterrent from visiting the city. That in turn fucks up revenue. So now one of the most fiscal part of the years, which is the summer, second quarter, when you're right here, this is where you make your money. Nobody's coming to New York after October. Nobody's coming up there. Coming up there for fucking what? Holiday, next time you see them, and you'll get the opportunity. You only get it for a day, where in the summertime you get it for days. You know, so the opportunity for revenue and coming out of the pandemic, I would guess that everybody and a lot of laws being lax as far as like how you have to wear your mask, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have a shot? Do you not? You know, all those things have changed. But I think this is a problem that's far deeper than just that. Because like I said before, if you're just now tuning in, when they first had stop and frisk, the reason that they had more preponderance and advocacy to take it away wasn't because of minorities. And that's why it always gets highlighted because of all these advocacy groups and shit. It was because of men, and particularly men police officers arresting women, and then 2, the INS, which is immigration naturalization, and they accompanied it with police were trying to ascertain people that they felt that were illegals. These people were suing them for multi-millions. Later on, you saw New York City put a cap on damaging lawsuits. You can look that up right now. It's a state statute. You can find it in Appellants. You can find it anywhere online. It's there. You'll also find a news article from the New York Post that states such as well. So this is one of the main reasons they got rid of stop and frisk. It was because of the lawsuits they were getting, not only from immigrants, and they were getting it from a couple of the folk too, you know, Latinos and blacks, but they were mostly getting them from women, and they were mostly getting them, and you can look, there's 3 particular cases with a male police officer where he arrested, I believe it was a 14-year-old girl, and sexually assaulted her. Drove her down like it was 1974 or something. Drove her down to the docks, you know what I mean? Did what they want to. You want to go home or you want to do a favor? You know, one of those types. Sicko motherfuckers. So there was an officer convicted for that. I believe he was a chief or something like that. Look this shit up. You'll see it. It's there. I lied to you not. A lot of people try to put synonymous with, you know, one thing I learned when I worked in the music industry was this. People make synonymous with what they consider a trustworthy face. And most of the times, a lot of those times, the trustworthy face is the face in the end that's ready to fuck you. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I learned. Now, the ones that you think, oh, I don't like him, I don't fuck with him, I don't fuck with her, sometimes they'll be your best fucking ally in an office space. In an office space. Now, I'm not saying that considerably goes outside of that and that goes somewhere different, but in the office space, yeah, trust me, trust me. And a lot of people will try to fuck you for different reasons, you know. It's not always to ascertain something monetarily. Most of the time it's about revenge in the smallest minuscule of fractions. You know, you remember that time you fucked me at the party? Fuck you. My kids are in college. Fuck your kids. But you came to dinner with us. Fuck you. That's the attitude they had at 1540 Broadway. Are you kidding me? Listen, we were in there with Puff. At the time, Puff wasn't as big as Clive Davis was, and Clive Davis wasn't as big as who owned him, which was BMG, Bertelsmann Music Group. Okay, that's who we worked for. Bertelsmann, it's a German conglomerate. They own record companies all across the fucking world. Billion-dollar company, not million, billion-dollar company. Now, give me 1 second, guys. Now, I know when I see an actor, I know when I see a fake scenario, shit like that. And one of the things I saw right here was this, in this story about this shooter. This motherfucker, they all of a sudden had one picture of him. But I think they had pictures of him prior. You know what I mean? Because everybody was asking the question, and I saw the black female police captain, that's I guess a spokesman for the NYPD now. I think she was elected by Adams. Either case it goes. I saw her facial expressions when they were reading out, well, he's a suspect right now. He's a person of interest right now, initially. And that's why you heard that story floating around. That's why I took the post down off my page, because I had it on my page, but I took it down. I had his picture, everything. Fuck him. And anybody that's black or Latino and you say, oh, why you put the fuck that motherfucker. And fuck you if you fucking protected him. You guys got to start saying fuck you to people that want to protect people like that. Protecting this motherfucker doesn't show solidarity. But like, even if you participated in this shit and it was an act, let's go on the conspiracy end of it. Even if you participated, you still a fucking raccoon, shoe shining motherfucker. Or like this. We're headed into the summertime. And I'm gonna make this short and then I'm gonna stop this and come back with a new one. We're headed into the summertime. Is one of the peak times for tourism. How can we make sure that there's no further incidents like this? We got to do two things. We got to reinstate stop and frisk. So make sure none of these wackos is getting on the subway or beating platforms or whatever the case may be. Make a fucking thought about it because they know the repercussions. The second thing we got to do, we've got to lock down the cities and we got to lock it down particularly in our tour routes. Now, one of the funny things about it is I used to work for those little tour bus companies. I forgot who it was. I ran about a whole bunch of Israeli guys. I did it as a little side gig after I got fucking fired from the music industry. So you do what you got to do. But I was selling bus tickets and there was money in it. Like we got a percentage of each ticket when we sold. And the tickets were expensive as shit. They were like $75 and shit if you want the real one. You know what I mean? They go up $75, $125. So you see like 40 something dollars off each ticket. You do the math. I sold 3 tickets. I still made more than the average motherfucker that worked for 8 hours. That's why I'm always into working smarter, not harder. To any of y'all out there, which most millennials know, don't work harder, work smarter. It's like, fuck that. You get nothing out of working harder nowadays. Like people have this traditional, I just want to go off on 2 seconds. People have this traditional paradigm that if you work hard or whatever, you're going to become wealthy. Okay, let's say you work real hard or whatever. I got a mom that went to school to basically become, what the fuck is she? Starts with a P. I'm trying to think of it. Practitioner. And so that takes you about 8 years of school, right? In and out, stop and stop. She's raising a family and everything else along the way. So it took a couple years. Once you get it, you cap out at like $100,000 or something. $100,000 in this market right now ain't shit. And if you go 10 years from now, when women talk about, oh, I want a high value man, all this bullshit, in 5 years, I wouldn't even say just 5 years, unless you like, and I'm not trying to brag, but unless you like myself and you have stocks that you hold, not sell, hold. Do not get into selling stocks unless you got at least $300,000 to throw away. You heard me correctly, throw away. Not invest, throw away. Because you're going to lose substantially a lot of it at first before it gains any money. Now, that's why I do fraction shares in comparison to doing, you know what I'm saying? Because at a fraction share, I can see a perception of what the company's doing gradually over time. With a full-on stock, I'm stuck with that motherfucker. That's how I look at it anyway. I'm stuck with it. The same paradigm that y'all think about money in the aspect of even I'll give you a better comparison. There was one time in the music business where if you became a millionaire, that was a big deal. Just 10, 15 years ago. Now, if you're a millionaire, most of the guys are looking at you like, about time. Now the thing to become is a billionaire. And shortly after this, in about 7 to 10 years, it'll be a trillionaire like Elon, which I advise y'all to invest into Tesla. Invest in Tesla and Twitter right now. If you never bought any Twitter shares, get them right now. Gave y'all something for free. It's a little free game. Let the shit sit. Don't be tempted just because you see the dollar amount. The same amount of money, and the reason I say the obvious is there, that you can't even afford a fucking Hubble if you're working in the paradigm of working a regular job nowadays. Or you a 40, 45-year-old man with fucking 3 or 4 roommates. You know what I'm saying? The average rent starts at about $1,300 to $1,400, depending on whatever city you're in. Well, you're someone like this guy, and you reach 62 years old, and based on how well he was plotted out in this Brooklyn subway shooting, it would stand to say with men, most of the men in my family on my mom's side coming from the military, this man was military trained previously at some point in his life. And I think that'll come out. You don't plot shit like that to get federal graded fireworks from nobody. You have to have connections for one. And they don't sell those necessarily at gun shows. That's for one. 2, once you get the licensing for that, or you got somebody with the licensing for that, what happens is this. You now have to show documentation of who took that from wherever. And usually they have it just like most military places where you have like a convoy of people that are going to take you in. And if it's something that's removable, meaning it's not explosive ready, like a nuclear warhead or some shit like that, you need a cavalry to carry that shit. And 15 motherfuckers with guns in the back. AKs and ARs preferably in a 50 cal, just in case. You know what I mean? It's a nuclear weapon. Well, what happens is a lot of these older guys that you get that are like 60, 62 years old, 70, they on the last limbs of their days. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to die. I'm not giving anybody's birthday or whatever. But I know this from talking to my aunt and everybody else that I talk to. I talk to a lot of old people. Always got my stride from older people a lot. That's why a lot of people be like, yo, what the fuck? I've been around some rich, let me tell you something. Y'all think like a rich motherfucker is a motherfucker that, I was doing that shit in Old Saybrook, you know? I was doing that in Niantic, you know, years ago for fun. Vin Baker, if you guys don't know him, he's a former professional basketball player, I believe it was. I don't know. We just love the guy. But he lived in the town adjacent to me and had a restaurant out there in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, which ironically, Captain Hepburn, she died out there too. Captain Hepburn had a beautiful house out there. She had a house that had 2 decks that went like a U. You know what I mean? 2 boat decks. That's a big thing on the end where I was at, boating. I've been in boats and in and out of boats, Boston whalers, you name it, since I was like 8 years old. Me and my crazy ass cousin. Shout out to Mom, baby Mario. But let me tell you something. This guy was on his wit's end. Mentally, I think financially, and I think in a lot of ways, this guy was just gone. And when you get to a certain point where you're gone for some people, you'll do almost anything. Almost anything. And I think that's where this man was at. And I think there's many other men that are walking around that are just like him. And I'm going to emphasize one more time what I said yesterday, and I'll say it again today. You know, women, yes, they have their importance. You have never heard me say it on this cast. In fact, you've heard the total opposite me come on here numerous of times. And if I don't talk about women as a whole, I talk specifically about black women and Latin women and shit that I find fucked up. That means all the way from them getting assaulted by punk motherfuckers, them getting murdered by punk motherfuckers that didn't get hugged enough, or the daddy didn't throw a football with them, on up. I do not support any bitch, smutty motherfucker like that. And the point is, you wouldn't do that around us. You wouldn't try one of the fellas like that, but you'll beat your chick. You won't try one of us though. You know the setback. So that shit I don't get down on. I can't stand that Mighty Mouse ass type motherfucker that will sit around and poke his chest out when he around his chick. What's that joke? What's the name had? I forgot what it was, but he said this shit and it was funny as hell. D-Ray said it. D-Ray, shout out to Chicago. D-Ray said it, comedian D-Ray. He said he was with his chick at the club. She said, you gonna flex on me like that? But you ain't flex on the motherfuckers at the club like that? So you know what I mean? Like, you'll never hear me support that. But within that, I'm saying this is what I said yesterday, which is the premise here. So I get taken away sometimes because I get emotional about shit like that. I got sisters, you know what I mean? But it's like, when you get these older men that are like this, and they're at this phase of their life, and they haven't done anything previously, or the things that they've done, which I found in a lot of times too, a lot of men will think that what they've done is worthy of a certain reward. And sometimes they can't understand why somebody didn't put the same prosperity that they did and got the reward. They don't understand that. And it's really a symmetry between what you pick for life. You understand what I'm saying? And in this economy and the way the world has changed in the past 10 years, it's coming to fruition even more. This is why you see more older people working at Burger King and shit like that at 70 years old, or working at McDonald's at 60 something, or whatever the case may be. And the reason that's happening, I'm gonna read all you guys' comments. Just give me 1 second. I just want to finish this one thought. The reason that's happening is because the economy is changing. You know, I went to the store the other day, and I ended up, and I swear to God to you, I ended up getting lamb because the lamb was cheaper than the hamburger. It was damn near the same price. You want to hear me say that again? I had planned on making spaghetti or spaghetti. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna make some nice spaghetti tonight. You know what I mean? Throw a couple little fucking basil leaves were cheap. They were like $1.29. You know what I mean? So, and you guys know I always talk about cooking and shit like that. I'm a fat kid. I'm the most fit fat kid you ever meet in your life. I'm always snacking on something. My sister Val, she knows that. She'll be like, she'll get on the phone, what the fuck you eat now? But the fucking goat meat was cheaper than a hamburger. So fast forward, we're in this economy, and now you got people that thought they had jobs they could ride out on at 60, even in some cases 55 based on the pension and how it's set up. Thinking they could ride the fuck out, now being forced to have to spend their elder years working. And if they don't work, they face the threat of not only being homeless or some shit like that, but they face the risk of scammers coming in. There's now a law inducted right here in the state of Connecticut against that, because they were out here taking old people's pensions and all kinds of shit. Hi, my name's so-and-so. If you a motherfucker to do that, you a lousy bitch. I hope you and your whole fucking family go straight to hell, you motherfucker. Steal from old people and shit. Ain't no punk. Them and the punk ass motherfuckers in LA, Florida, I've seen it, in New York definitely, that's attacking old people too. Y'all motherfuckers need to be set in a cell with a whole bunch of rapists. You know what I'm saying? Sit them motherfuckers in a whole pod or tier or whatever the fuck it is. When you send them to the jail with a whole brand of rapists in there that just like boys. You in here for raping a woman? No, I like boys. What was that shit on the Boondocks? Look, we can do this the easy way, or you can do it the hard way. The choice is yours. Oh shit, you out here what kind of low brown motherfucker steals from old people? Like, bitch, you can't even get up and just be like, yo, listen, I made some, I don't know, I made a fake account or some shit, I don't know, like, do something. You can't talk to me about that shit. I've been there and done that. You're getting old people that are forced to work in their older years, being priced out of traditional communities that they've been in. The people that they're always surrounded them are being forced out. I came back here to Stanford, and I'd only been gone for 3 years. And I swear to God to you, I didn't even notice half the population here. A lot of these people are not even from Connecticut. Don't have any history in Connecticut. I got a kid buried in the ground in Connecticut. You know what I'm saying? Funny thing about shit is, these people that are being forced to work into their elder years, is it fair? No, it's not fair. Is it right? No, it's not right. But when you take this subway shooter guy and you put all those dynamics against him, if he really did it, and this is a true story, outside the conspiracy angle I went, which I'll update you on that if you're just tuning in a second, then it stands for me to say, and I think it stands for you to say using your intelligence, that this is the route that this man took. He said, your life and anybody else's life doesn't matter to mine, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions. If your history of living is in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, how the fuck do you know about Sunset Brooklyn? So is he from New York? Is he from the Northeast? From Jersey? Out here where we're at home in Connecticut? Where is he from? And I can't figure that out. Not only can I not figure that out, I can't figure out how the fuck he let 29 hours expand and he didn't go anywhere. And he ends up on the same train line. He ends up on the same train line he had committed an atrocity. They catch him coming out. I want to underline that for you one more time. They catch him coming out of the In and R line. The In and R, for y'all that don't live in New York City or have never been to New York City, the N and the R and what's the other one? The W, I think it runs, all run on that one line. Okay? They separate at different points. Like I think one point, the N and the R separate. I think it's like a tunnel or something that goes down and then it comes back up. And then they meet again, I think maybe at like Canal Street, Rector Street, somewhere like that. But I believe that's where they caught him at. Now, if you really know New York, you know the close proximity between Rector, Rector, Canal, and all that. Once you get past Canal, you're in Brooklyn. One end of Canal Street is the Manhattan Bridge. That's going north. Going south, that way is the Brooklyn Bridge. And you'll ride across that bridge when you're catching I think the end. You'll ride across, you'll be on top of the, will you be on top? No, you can see the Brooklyn Bridge from the train. You can see the Brooklyn Bridge from the train. Now, I'm just telling y'all, the chances and probability of this a couple of stops after where they caught him at going into Brooklyn, that don't make sense. Those are the tenements I use in my argument when I say I think some of this is Chuck. I think some of this is being promoted specifically to make the Raiders. We got to have something to talk about. Come on. We just spent the past 2 weeks talking about fucking Will Smith and him slapping Chris Rock. Who gives a fuck? We didn't talk about what Kid Rock fucking hauled off and was ready to kick ass at a live performance during the VMAs on Tommy fucking Lee over crap ass, fucking frail ass, fucking faded ass, fucking Pamela Anderson. That bitch was washed up back then. Excuse my French. She was washed up back then. She never had no ass, and she had these big fucking silicone tits everywhere. And she had these big. She was one of those first women I think that was doing those lip injections. Yeah, I called her a bitch. She's a fucking whore. Who wants to argue with me? Anybody want to argue? She was a whore. There's been many whores. Marilyn Monroe was a whore. Eartha Kitt, for all sakes and purposes, was a whore. She even wrote a book about being a whore. There's whores, sluts, always will be. Where do you think they got Mary Magdalene from? Come on. Don't play coy with me. And Jesus loved her above everybody. Only thing I'm saying to you guys is this. This story looks peculiar. I don't trust the story, and I don't like it. Please hit the thumbs up. Thank you guys for hitting the thumbs up too. We up on the likes. I want to read some of you guys' comments because it's been so many, and I wasn't reading them, so excuse me. I was in Texas, nervous as fuck for New York, Coco Bell says. 305 Capricorn says, the shooter has a YouTube channel. He made videos about Sonetta, Hassan, and Nature Boy. This shit just keep getting weird. Now, that's something else I want to move on to. I was getting ready to stop this, But I'm glad I stopped right there at that comment. Y'all stay with me for a minute. Y'all stay with me for a minute. It didn't pass my mind until people started recognizing me from my YouTube channel in public that I said, oh, okay, this is what this shit is. Okay. And I filmed it. I did a live about it before. It was some kid. He knew me from the music industry too. He said he had known me from, shout out to, what's that boy's name? Shampoo over at Def Jam. You know what I'm saying? If everybody knows Shampoo, you know what I'm saying? YNVS. That's my man right there. He's been responsible for Young Jeezy, a lot of Jay-Z's campaign, Noriega definitely, P Crack, a couple other artists, you know what I mean? From the 2000s up until now. So he was like he was like me. We've been in for a long time, you know? A lot of people know him. A lot of people respect him, especially Jay, and I would say mostly Leo Cohen, Jay-Z, and a couple other people, but they respect him, you know what I mean? So shout out to Shampoo. And so dude, he recognized me or whatever, you know, and I filmed it. I didn't know which way it was gonna go, so I was like, fuck that, at least I got something to show people. You know what I mean? Anything can make footage. So I was like, all right. I started realizing how much this YouTube shit is influential in certain people that have a low depth of perception and reality's lives. What do you mean by that, Davin? Meaning that some of these motherfuckers live for the possibility and live for the edge that they have to be led, the same as was when I was young. There's some certain motherfuckers, they can't get throughout their day without being led. You gotta show them how to do this. You gotta tell them how, and not say nobody needs direction every now and then. Everybody needs direction. If you don't have any direction, you won't have any people that learn at the job. Therefore, the job can't be more productive conclusively. You understand? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is certain individuals or mechanisms within the will or the spoke of the will sometimes can fuck things up. That's what I'm talking about. And people like that, some of them do it intentionally, some of them do it off of a goof, but more importantly, some of them do it with the intention of doing just what they're doing. And I gotta say, out of those names mentioned, Sarnetta, Hassan, and Nature Boy, I say two of them stick out to me more so than the third that would be influential towards that. Now, I'm going to start with the one that's the least I think will be influential in that argument, which will be Hassan Campbell and the material that he puts out. And the reason I say this is because of this. I wasn't really familiar outside the time that he was on the Star Report. I will be very honest, I did not follow Hassan Campbell until recently. And I saw a video that he made and I liked the video. And I said, let me go check out and see what the rest of this dude got. So I went to go check out everything else that he had, shit. I was rapping with it. I was like, okay, all right, I can fuck with this, I can fuck with it. And so I didn't see anything in his diatribe, at least from the 20 plus sub videos that I scrolled through, and 3, 4, or 5 that I clicked so far. I ain't gonna front and say, yo, I watched all 20, I didn't. But I didn't see any of them in my regard as far as the title anyway. Not talking about inclusive, because like I said, I didn't listen to all his videos. And I didn't see anything in the title that would allude to, yo, we need a revolution right now. We need to shoot shit up and blah, 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 blah. Nothing like that. Now with Sarnetta, and especially Nature Boy, Sarnetta being in the middle of this. Sarnetta, I see how you could. And I've said this about Sarnetta before, and I'll say it again. And I have no ill will towards this man. I don't want to argue with this man. I'm basically stepping a point. You have a dialect on your channel where you like to debate who was, you know, the King Heptut and was Jesus. I saw something other, where the Edomites, where did they come from, and all this silly ass shit. And I'm like, in a political arena, in a working arena, unless you work for yourself and then you are making money off of this shit, I'm talking about, you know, incense or whatever. And listen, don't get me wrong. You can walk up and down 125th Street right now today, and there's a million vendors out there with tables filled of everything you could think of. Perfumes, incense, bags to say back to Africa, back to Puerto Rico, whatever you want, you know? But the problem is, once it's then taken from where you started at on the street corners, is now brought into the office room, because that's what you have your shit set up as. And you do these debates with everybody. And you charge for these debates. So now you're making somewhat of a profit, saying, mid thousands. I respect it. They choose to participate. It's a business model. But it's a dialogue and a language that's inclusive within those debates that can be perceived different amongst different people. You understand? Everybody doesn't have the key to perception the same way. A lot of people, like this guy that was a shooter, Brooklyn subway shooter, he didn't see perception the way that all of us see it. And so with that, what you got a problem. You got influence once again. Now I'm gonna go on to the third and final one that I was talking about, which is Nature Boy, which I ain't got no beef with you either. But I honestly and truthfully believe you are a pure and complete fucking nut. Not only are you a nut, I think that you are using people. I think that you are taking advantage of people. And I think what you have in your diatribe on a daily basis does promote separatism. And I don't support separatism, whether it be for whites, blacks, Puerto Ricans, fucking Guatemalans, I don't care. I don't support separatism, especially when you're in my fucking country. Make no mistake about it. You're in my country. The delegates that are in Congress and Senate, 38% of them make up African Americans. The next percentage make up are by Latinos, and I'm part of both of those groups. Make no mistake about it. You have no power unless you have it in the Senate and Congress. You can't cash any bills. All you can do is walk around with your chest poked out and pretend and be actors and actresses. I don't do the acting actresses role. I actually did it. Noted Down is doing it. Pictures, people known, I don't have to do that. But with this Nature Boy motherfucker, one of the things I see about him is this is now his third or fourth time to become lucrative amongst the people by feeding them a diatribe of certain shit. And the diatribes that he's feeling to these people is one of toxicity. And I don't like those toxic motherfuckers. I'm not a fan. And at the same time, I'm not here to be a censor. But what I will say though is, when you have young ears listening to a lot of this shit that a lot of these older guys are putting out here, one thing stands clear. I'm looking for my shoe, people. One thing stands clear, and that thing is this. If your kids are embracing these people, if your sons and daughters are embracing these people, say they're 20, 25 years old, they're creating a mentality based off of their understanding in that moment. And their range of decision-making, understanding, problem solving in that age range and demographic and tier at that point. And based off that, that's how they're gonna make their decisions on what they digest, ingest, and regurgitate to the public, to society, to friends, to peers, to whoever they come in contact with. I think this guy being a YouTuber stands out more than anything, because I'm a YouTuber. And many of you guys that listen to me are YouTubers as well. And this is why I try to tell you, and I'll use Alex Jones as an example. Alex Jones was removed from YouTube, not because he was on there selling snake oils. Alex Jones was removed because for years, and a lot of the shit Alex Jones said came to fruition. That's why you see major networks, they'll fuck with him. They won't never tell you that, but that's why they'll fuck with him. That's why you can go on Tucker Carlson's show, and he's got a motherfucker on there talking about UFOs. Now, based on that, and this guy being a YouTuber, we see, especially us that have way more followers, like let's be real. A lot of the guys on YouTube, you really don't have too much to talk about. So a lot of you won't never have 10,000, 20,000, 1 million, whatever followers. You just won't. Now for a very long time anyway, unless something go viral, then anything can happen. But the majority of y'all won't. So my responsibility as being at least a mid-tier out of that high range is to do this. Tell y'all what the deal is. A lot of these guys are using YouTube to funnel, like Alex Jones did, their own personal ideas. And once you put your own personal ideas into reality-based thought processing, it doesn't make sense. Your mind will automatically tell you, okay, depending on your decision structure, this don't make sense. And you'll move away from it. You'll get away from it immediately most of the time. You know, it's like your decision-making skills tell you, hey, this person around me right now is shifty as fuck. Let me get away from them. You see what I mean? And you might be right or wrong. But your decision-based skills have told you, hey, this is what we hold paramount to all above. This, and this. This is what people that have grown up and taught. And you can't hold people at fault to that. Because at that time, you would have to have a conversation with yourself and be like, well, how many times am I wrong? Yeah? So it's just a way of life. YouTubers and our influence on people nowadays is paramount for a few specific reasons. I try not to have anything toxic on here. I've had my times when I've blown up on people in the chat room, and I tell you what it is, because you know what? Quite frankly, if you haven't donated and you're talking and you keep repeatedly asking questions, or you're asking shit about the music industry, or you're asking personal shit about me, what right do you have? You haven't monetarily contributed to anything, so you're not part of my mechanism. So, you know what I mean? Be a spectator. But if you're going to be a participator, don't be an arrogant and obnoxious one. That's all I'm asking. Now, I'll tell you this. I've seen now probably 10 to 15 YouTubers that put in the right environment and put the right language behind an indictment. These motherfuckers should be in jail. And y'all go run and tell them I said it. I walked around the Bronx at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, getting off the 2 train. Ain't too much I'm scared of. All right? So you have to do real hard before you try to scare me. But a lot of these YouTubers that are online right now, that a lot of you guys do know, they do have some really dark, toxic thoughts, you know? And I don't want to say it's more the women than the men, or vice versa, or whatever the vice versa. I'm sorry, y'all. I just see this fine ass woman. Y'all sorry. I'm a guy. Hey. Laughing emojis. Thank you. Seen this fine ass woman. A lot of these, I want to say this right. A lot of these YouTubers that are doing their influencing, one of the funny things that they do is they have these whole subject matters. Like, I'll use Kevin Samuels as an example. His diatribe every night is breaking down how women act, what they do, what rate do they rate under, like a 4, a 3, a 6, a 2, whatever the fuck, right? And then you have, on the opposite end of that, he will have no other commentary outside of that. You get what I'm saying? Thank you very much. He'll have no, and I'm gonna read the rest of you guys' comments. Just give me 5 seconds. Kevin Samuels won't talk about anything that doesn't realm around that premise, for I think in the fear of he won't go as viral. So I'm not saying that what his brand is toxic, but I'm saying it's a possibility if he switches up the dialogue from that one premise outside into something else, people won't fuck with him anymore. And this is how a lot of brands work. Some brands are able to diversify, enter into vertical integration, synergy, you know, they're able to do it. I worked for a guy that was able to do it, Puff. He has several different brands. Puff doesn't make any money off that music. And if he tells you he does, he's fucking lying. What up, Skinny? You're making money off all the other brands, all the other endeavors, all the other investments. That's the key. You get your money. Every time I get a little bit of fucking donation money, and I want to give a shout out to TMH Global again. He donated $150 yesterday. Y'all match that. Throw something in, man. Cash App $STRINGERBELL80. I said I'm gonna have one more time where I'm gonna still put the edit on, but I ain't gonna put the edit on as much. You know what I mean? Because there's some things y'all do need to realize, whether you realize it or not. Back to what I was saying. There seems to be a problem here when you get into this realm of the hoteps on YouTube. They're very diversified. A lot of them argue amongst each other. A lot of the hotep crowd doesn't seem to really falter on one pillar or another. They kind of muddle the line between a various amount of different ones. Just kind of muddle the line to what they actually agree. And, you know, in a fair marketplace, you can play the part of neutrality. I get it. But although often enough, it doesn't become a form of neutrality, it becomes a form of aggression. I've seen these hoteps, and I'm not calling you out or calling you names. I've seen these hotep brands on a day-to-day basis argue with each other, make threats, say who so-and-so is coming to see so-and-so, do debates. Y'all work it out like this and nothing comes of it. Nothing comes from advancing and putting money back into the community unless you're having little dinners and cookouts, toy giveaways, shit like that, you know. Or Keith Rose wrote, I used to like watching Kevin, but I started feeling sick after I realized he was getting enjoyment from bashing women. I don't know if he gets enjoyment from bashing women or he's just like what I said yesterday, and I'll go back to what I was saying in 1 second, but I want to address a comment. I don't know if it's that or if it's more so Kevin Samuels. You know, I've known guys like Kevin Samuels. Like, all right, let me say some shit, and I don't mean to sound cocky, all right? I've never had a fucking problem with getting women, okay? I've never had a problem with getting women. I could be in fucking whatever, and I'll pull women. I've proven that in Miami. I've proven that in California. I've proven that in multiple states that I travel to working with Bad Boy, all right? So I don't have to prove that. I can get them young, old, in the middle, you name it. I've never had a problem getting women. But some men have had a problem getting women, and they don't start getting women until later on. Which brings me to this. I've seen those pictures of Kevin Samuels when he was younger. Some people were floating that the option that he might be homosexual, which I don't think so. I don't think so, not in those pictures. But he did look a little flaky. You know what I'm saying? He didn't look like the guy. Y'all seen that picture in the club when he was like this? Or the picture when he was up on the tree, he was like this? He was damn near like this. Boom. Yo, I'm gonna keep that shit. I love that one right there. That's hilarious. And that one picture, Kevin Samuels looked real. Y'all know the one I'm talking about when he was laid up against the tree. It's fucking hilarious. Let's laugh. The guy, you know, he didn't look like the type of guy that got Vijay. Is that fair to say? He didn't look like the guy that got Vijay. And if he did get Vijay, he had to pay for the Vijay. All right? Now, I ain't one that's got the gift of gab. I just speak naturally. What comes out my mouth comes out my mouth. And I've been around 3 digits behind the millionaires. You know what I'm saying? At Miami, party with them over Star Island, all that shit. And they never had a problem with me. In fact, they love me, and many of them still talk to me to this day if it's an option there. So I got a lot farther along in life being me. And now that I'm reestablishing my life and trying to re-enter this fucking shitty business of entertainment via all vehicles, YouTube, I can see what Kevin Samuels is getting his shit off right now because he's 51, 52, isn't he? And his YouTube channel popped around the time, and I heard the stories about him being in Atlanta and going to samples and trying to grab samples and being greedy about the samples. I've heard all those stories, okay? He was in Neiman Marcus down there in Atlanta, whatever. I don't like Atlanta. I mean, I don't, not that I don't like Atlanta people, I just don't like Atlanta as a city. It's a very small place. And like if I had to compare it to somewhere, it's like Rhode Island up here. It's small as hell with all these fucking buildings. But let me tell you something about this guy, man. He tries to use slick talk, in my opinion. He tries to use slick talk. He tries to use dressing, and I don't like people that overdress. I never trust people that overdress. I don't like people that overdress. I think sometimes you can overdress depending on what the thing is or what. Like, you ever been out somewhere, right? And like, let's say it's like a wedding or something like that or whatever. And then somebody's in there with a bright ass, you know, orange shirt on under the tuxedo or some shit, or, you know, some chick's in there with a lavender color fucking whatever on, and the color palette is baby blue and white. You know what I'm saying? Like, the shit becomes frustrating. That's all I'm saying to my eyes. It's like in Malcolm X, in the movie Malcolm X, he said, yeah, but that suit is hurting my eyes. You know what I mean? They got a guy that does that right now. His name is Marcus. He's on the 5150 show. Y'all make sure y'all go follow him too on Instagram and on here. You know Marcus. That's spelled YOUNKNOWMARCUS. You know Marcus. I think that's how it's spelled. There's no, no misspellings or K replacing. It's spelled regular. So go check him out or whatever. His brand of interviewing and everything like that. Hopefully I'm gonna be able to go. I got an invite to some, and that's another thing too. I'll talk about that towards the end. But Kevin Samuels, man, I think he's a guy that has now gotten older, and I've seen this before, has now gotten older, and he's like, now I can get some chicks. Now I can get some chicks. You know what I mean? You throw the popularity from YouTube, like I said, this is why I say YouTube is so influential to so many people, and I didn't even know it until, this past year. I'm at, almost 2.3 million views. You know what I'm saying? So I think I'm at it's like 2.8, what was it, 2.3 million, and I went from 1.8 to what's the name in that in like 2 months. So I appreciate you guys. Yeah, let's do one for the channel, guys, because so we're at 2.3 million, and some people remember when I got my first million views. So you know what I mean? Definitely a moment. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, Kevin Samuels, hey girl. He's a little suspect. That's all I'm saying, guys. That's all I'm saying. So I've met men like that before that have never been able to get women, and 50. So that's still young, relatively speaking. Even 60 to some regard if you're taking care of yourself. But now that he's in his prime years, if you want to say, for him, it sits suit with me that he would be there and he would be in that mindset that, hey, now I can get women. You know what I mean? And for some men, it's the first time. So I hope that answers your question about Kevin and what I think about him as far as that plateau of the conversation any fucking way. Because if I go on deeper, I'm going to get in trouble. I don't want to do this. And that's another thing. See, now you took me on to something else. I didn't want to do it. All right, I got to fucking do it now. I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to do it for you. One time. The fact that he goes after any guy that goes after Instagram chicks and looks at Instagram chicks as being a reality of a fucking dating situation, you should be stoned in the village. You are going to create from those whores on Instagram a whole tribe full of whores, possibly, or a tribe full of little motherfuckers. And these little motherfuckers, be they male or female, are going to walk into society based off the notoriety that you've gained off Instagram. I'm specifically talking about the Instagram models. Like I'm figuring you're talking about Brittany Renner, people like that, right? They have like way more popularity, have dated superstars, have made money off of superstars or whatever. That's why I say don't talk to me about fucking money. I have people here where I live that they walk past me all the time and act like they got big money. I'm like, you ain't been around no fucking big money. I've been around fucking big money. But if you feel that way, you know what I'm saying? Whatever gets your rocks off. Right, Antoine? Whatever gets your rocks off, man. Don't talk to me, man. Don't talk to me. I spit in this guy's face one time. He was trying to show off in front of me in front of this little bullshit ass car. I said, you ever been in a Lamborghini? Whole conversation just shut the fuck down. So, you don't need no fucking key for a Lamborghini. That would have been his first lie. Now, let me tell you guys something here. Kevin Samuels dating Instagram girls. That's always a telltale sign that a motherfucker is risky. You're both risky with your D. You're risky with your life. You're risky with your money. Now, these girls on Instagram, the whole reason most of them are there because they always got an OnlyFans attached to this shit, don't you know? Always got an OnlyFans. You ain't notice that? I say 80% of the girls got a fucking OnlyFans, another 5 or 6 accounts, a Linktree that you can go to. You can go purchase the pictures. You want to see them, peg yourself with a freaking horse chair, whatever the fuck you want to see, whatever your fetish is, you can go fucking see it right there on OnlyFans. That fucking disgusting Kauser, Sizer shit. It's a German company if y'all didn't know. That's why they allow so much shit on there. I don't know if it still is. They got acquisition, but it was formerly a German or far European country, meaning not the shit, they don't do shit like that in England, they don't do shit like that in France, trust me. But over in fucking Western Europe, when you get into Prague and all those shit, and the Hagen, no, I wanna take your asshole, you know, all that shit. Y'all ever seen that fucking movie Hostel? No said. And if you don't believe that, we'll watch part 2 and 3. Y'all make you fucking believer. So OnlyFans started out as a Germanic or a German company. And they were, I don't know if they were acquisition or whatever the fuck or whatever, but they have some disgusting fetishes on it. Just trust me when I tell you this. So you'll get these girls, and most of them, like Brittany Renner, I'm assuming, had OnlyFans as well. Now, Brittany Renner, the reason I keep pointing out, because out of all the whores that's on there, she's one of the most popular whores. Gained notoriety on multiple different high-end media sets, including Entertainment Tonight. They covered her. Who else? TMZ has covered her. You know, this whore gets around. It's like our black Marilyn Monroe. Hi, Marilyn. So, when he started, how can I say, propositioning, is that correct word I can say? Propositioning Brittany Renner, I knew something was wrong with old boy. I said, oh my God, you did all this talking. You see, that's why I said you gotta watch some of these motherfuckers and watch their actions, see if they line up. That's why when I take donations, I always show people what I buy with my donations. I don't go rent fucking car. I did all that shit. I done been in labs, Porsches, you name it. You know what I'm saying? Got the pictures and video to prove it. Miami, LA, all that shit. I worked at a fucking record company. So I don't have to do that shit. But for the guys that do that shit, they'll take a rental from fucking Miami, like I told you yesterday, drive it all the way to New York, keep it for 3 extra fucking days, then drive back to Miami and try to take it back to the fucking car place. Now your late fees and everything fucking else, that same car you probably could have fucking took it, put down on the real one for yourself. Dumb fuck. When I saw him chasing after Brittany Renner and the other IG women that, you know, I got a different place for IG women. Some IG girls are on there and they're modest, they look nice and shit, and you know, you're like, all right, cool, I can accept this. You know, you're not too scatteredly clad. Every now and then you want to show an ass cheek, you want to show a breast. I can live with that, right? I can't live with where the perplexity of your whole damn profile is you butt ass naked, and then like 3-4 weeks in, you look in the profile, you got a picture of you and your boyfriend and the kid. Brittany Renner has a child. Why the fuck are you still on Instagram scantily clad naked? You use property now. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it in the sense of you should be looking to become somebody's wife or at least real girlfriend at this point. Or go back to the guy that got you pregnant. Is that a bad request? There's guys, hit 1 if you think so in the chat room. I just want to know, is that a bad request? You shouldn't continue whoring. At this point, you should be like, I heard, who was it? She said this, and she just said it last night. I think her name is Tish, and she was on Corey Holcomb's 5150 show. She was on last night's episode, and she was talking at the time about Blac Chyna. Now, I got nothing against Blac Chyna, but I understood exactly what she was saying. She said, bitch, you done been to the top and don't have nothing to show for it. Now, I can see that in 2 different ways. I can see it, one, me coming from the music industry, my dilemma, recovering from that dilemma and trying to get back in. I understand that. So I can understand if anybody on here said, well, ain't you the one to talk? But this is the thing. I was whoring too. I was whoring for a record company and all its distributors. But I wasn't whoring ever for a woman or for a relationship. You wouldn't have a baby with Rob Carr fucking Dashian, okay? And now you're taking them to court. Yeah, let's see how that shit works out with old Rob Shapiro on the mix. Let's see how that all works out. This is the motherfucker that got off OJ. And we all know OJ did that shit. These black people will tell you OJ did that shit. You know what I'm saying? But you should have had that motherfucker in his house. And OJ ain't the first story. OJ was just the first one to get glamorized and polarized. They were trying to say somebody was trying to kill Marilyn Monroe at the time. Now, moving on from there, if you date Instagram models, be aware of this. There's an initiative involved. That initiative involves getting money. It's always monetary when it comes to, and I'm going to say 80% of the time. And then when you segue it into dating apps, which I'm pretty sure Kevin Samuels was on. Well, when you go into dating apps, it gets even more dangerous. There was just a guy in the Bronx that was set up, and they look different. There was a guy that was set up in the Bronx. I could go look up the stories in the New York Post and the New York Times. He was set up by a girl that was actually a dental assistant in her regular day. This is a dental assistant. This is why I tell you all the time. You have to watch these personalities that are online, because many of these people work in your courthouses. Many of these people work as police officers. Many of these people have really significant jobs, yet they'll be on social media spilling whatever. And this is why a lot of companies initially, before they hire you now, they go and tell in and see what you have in your past on your social media. Now, let me tell you some shit. One of the funny fucking things I found about Kevin Samuels was this. You talk about these women on your show and you talk down about them, but at the same time, the architect of what you like is these women. It's seemingly loose, whorish, dumb, slow, however you want to define it, okay? Everybody's got their own definitions or whatever. Naive, some may say. Many of these girls particularly are young, so you're taking a fucking whole punch at their not only their personality, but their development. You know, we never take that into consideration. Those small words right there could affect a girl moving on. Well, Kevin Samuels said I'm ugly, so I must be ugly. And everybody in this chat room said I'm ugly, so I must be ugly. You just helped create a demon. So I have to look at it in both regards. Now, some of those girls that come on there, they fucking deserve it. I'm going to be quite honest with you. You come on there, and you come on there arrogant and belligerent, sassy. I hate that sassy personality. I don't like that shit. Get the fuck away from me with that one. I got a place for that on the island and set the island on fire for that sassy shit. I don't give a fuck what color it comes from either. I don't like that sassy shit. You keep that sassy shit with you. I don't have women in my family to act like that, and I hate women that approach me and assume. Now, I'm a college graduate, 1. 2, I've worked at a multi-million-dollar record company for damn near 17 years. Don't come to me with that sassy shit. Ain't nobody talk to me in the office like that was white. And you damn sure ain't gonna talk to me like that being one of us that would sit at the dinner table. Now, I understand a lot of you girls ain't got a father, ain't have a father, ain't had no real good male role models and all that shit. It's your mother's fault. You should go cuss her out. It's your mother's fault. You should go cuss out. Yes, you heard me correctly. Your mother was that same chick at the club 20 years ago, shaking her ass, or somebody would pull up, be like, beep, beep, and she'd be like, I'm coming. That was your mother. And a lot of you kids that are here today that are 20, 25, 30 years old, some of my viewers, you come from a woman just like this. You used to go to the club, used to get drunk, used to hang out with multiple guys, used to have multiple guys on the string, whatever. All right? As much as you don't want to fucking admit it, a lot of you come from that. White, black, otherwise. All right? There's a lot of you in the trailer park. The fucking mama was a tavern fucking star. You know what I mean? Old Shirley. Barbara. Don't fucking run smoke up my ass. I lived right here and grew up most of my life right here on the shoreline, Connecticut. And I know what the fuck I'm talking about. We got many of tavern whores in Connecticut. That's all Connecticut is, a bunch of bars and taverns every goddamn where. Don't matter what city or what borough, county you go to. I said borough. What county you go to. Fairfield, New London, Essex. It don't matter. So, with that all being taken into consideration, right? I'll tell you young boys this. Do not set your options with dating Instagram whores. Okay? And if you are going to date a girl on Instagram or a dating app, you need to go for the girls that look the least willing to put themselves out there. Now, my ex-girlfriend, I say it all the time, my ex-girlfriend was a freaking square. She was a nerd. She wore I'm talking about a nerd. Wore glasses, talked about fucking CinemaCon, and she introduced me to the, what's the name of that show? I love it to this day. I've rewatched it with, I can't think of the name of it. It's with the vampires and werewolves in it or whatever the case may be. It'll come to my mind in a minute. But very good girl, you know? And since went on, she's working in Yale now. So good for her. You know what I mean? It's funny. All the girls that come in fucking contact with me, they always ultimately end up going to do something. I want to toke my horn for that for a minute. They always end up graduating, because the whole time she was with me, I was like, go back to school, go back to school. Look, I'll wait for you, go back to school, you know? Or either two, they end up opening their own business or something like that. I don't know. There's just something about me. So I'm glad I got that little thing. I think it's from having sisters too. I'm always perceptive of how I talk to women most of the time. Now, if you say some dumb shit to me and you try to be one of these tough guys, sassy chick shits, I'm gonna treat you like a fucking guy at the football game. Fuck you and everybody lives in your house. If you wanna take that attitude. Sometimes you gotta meet force with force. In today's standards, as you can see by that subway shooting yesterday, sometimes you being a nice fucking person just ain't enough. Now, I'm a nice guy. I'm not a fucking pushover, but I'm a nice guy. And I live my life with trying to be nice to people. Now, you might not like my brand of nice, and if you don't, fuck you. But if you do, you know I'm a kind-hearted person, and I think I've got more than enough examples of that. I've gotten people hired in multi-million-dollar companies. Like, I've done a lot of shit for people. So I think me sitting on here asking for my donations ain't that much. So if you guys like to donate, it's $STRINGERBELL80, Stringerbell 80. The link is in the description box. And also make sure you hit the like button again. Now, if you haven't yet. Subway shooter called Crime Stoppers on himself and told them he would be waiting. Now listen, man. I'll answer that question for you because you put that up. I said this earlier, and if you're just now tuning in, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the Cash App, $STRINGERBELL80. Thanks to TMH Global. I appreciate your $150 donation. I want to say that again. Let me tell y'all something. The reason I said that this shit was a big farce, how long have we go? An hour? I'll do this 15 minutes. I don't like to do them 2 hours because then they get muddled in the line and you can't really fucking saturate it the way you want to. I like to hit it at that 1.5 hour point. That way you guys ain't got too much. You can go on to the next one because we're going to start another one after this. Because I'm going to talk another fraction of what I was talking about in the next live that I do here about exactly how I feel about what I think Mayor Adams is taking the approach to. But there's a lot of perimeters in there in this conversation, and I'll tell you what I mean by this. You know, you have the preliminary story, okay? And the preliminary story goes, this guy got on the train, he started shooting, you know, they found whatever, okay? People scurry out, people are smoke inhalation, train pulls into the station, they get on another train, they pull out, okay? That's the paraphrasing, just to get to this point. Now, the reason I say this thing sounds odd is because this man was collectively found on the same goddamn rail line that he committed the shooting. They caught him on the rail line of the N and the R. If you guys are not familiar with the New York City tri-state area, the N and the R run into Brooklyn, okay? I've caught those trains. I catch it down to DeKalb to Long Island University before. We used to film down there. Now, this guy, oddly enough, they don't want to pinpoint where he got caught at. By seeing the little brief thing of the sign, because what they did was they curved the sign so you couldn't, well, they curved the camera so you couldn't see the sign completely. So if you guys are not familiar, it'll say such and such, like I just said DeKalb, right? It'll say DeKalb Avenue Station. So they did the camera and they put it at an edge like this. So if you guys got to get the end. So now see how you guys can't see that building anymore? They did it like that, so the only thing you can see is station. But if I had to make a guess, and me knowing New York and riding that train previously and many of times for over the years, including when I was at college and everything else, I know that that's fucking Rector Street. And I know that's where they caught this motherfucker. And if this is your first time here, I curse, all right? I'm a New England boy. If you don't like it, you feel free. Just hit the like button before you get out, and more preferably, make sure you donate. But I curse. This motherfucker, and I think he deserves being cursed at, because he's a motherfucker. This guy was able to scurry around the city. Okay, I want you to put this in your mind. He was able to scurry around the city in his escape route for 29 hours. And he decides, I can't go any further than the train line. And when I say this is how close this is to Brooklyn, I believe I had to go out to wreck this Wall Street, because I had to go down to Wall Street to take care of some licensing down there at the office that got down there. I forgot where it is. It's over there by that bull. It's like at the end of, like if you walked all the way across the Brooklyn Bridge, where you come out at over there. It's over there where the bull is. There's some offices over there you have to fill out for licenses and shit. So Shout out to Arizona. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, he had 29 hours of leave and he got no further. And once you go across Canal, Rector, and all that shit, you are now entering Brooklyn. Just to highlight this for you. Make sure you hit that like button, guys. You're now entering Brooklyn. Once you get into Brooklyn, and once you're in there, oh man, now you're in the borough. Now that you're in the borough, you're talking about maybe 10, 15 minutes before you get to Sunset Park, where this incident happened, right? So the proximity in which this man was at is very close. They're within minutes of each other. The news is not going to point that out to you because they think most of them, they think you're dodos. But trust me. So it's minutes between Rector Street and Sunset Park, that area. Now this motherfucker, and I call him a motherfucker rightfully, fuck Frank. Fuck Frank. And if you're black or Latino taking up for Frank and saying his rights are being fucking withheld, no, fuck you and Frank and everybody lives in your house. I ain't taking up for everybody no more just because, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can't be doing that shit no more. So one of the things that I see, and I'll say even more specifically, is this. This nigga, because that's what he is, this nigga, he decided to hop on that train and shoot all those people innocently. And it's a problem that I tell you guys all the time that exists, which is this. You have these older black, white, and Latin gentlemen out here that are well past or into their prime. I am not going to stand on the street corner with you. I am not going to have a drink with you. And however your life has ended up thus far, you had options just like the fucking rest of us. So you still have options. You still have options. Many of you. But Frank gave up on life. And if the story is true, he said, I'm going to go on this train, I'm going to shoot everybody just because I feel the fucking way I feel. I said, all right. But one of the things that I have to point out is, if this thing is real, we have to shun the fuck out of Frank. The same way and the same ferocity that you motherfuckers put into shaming Will Smith. I want to see more. Yo, you heard me right. I want to see more. Because there's two ends of this stick. It could be either or. It's one that I mentioned earlier, which is this. If this is a storyboard, if this is a film production with the shooting, which some people are noteworthily, respectfully, I can understand. If this is a ploy to bring back stop and frisk, which I think it is under the police, ex-police captain or chief, now turned mayor, that wasn't available initially because he had COVID-19, as they say, but miraculously was able to film a segment and deliver it to the fucking local agencies so they could distribute it this morning. That's why y'all heard me. He hopped up out of bed and filmed some shit and sent it in. That's what they say. That's what they say. That's what they say. So, with that being taken into consideration, I told you guys earlier in the broadcast, and I'll tell you again right now, they took away stop and frisk, not because of minorities getting patted and everything like that, but more in fact because of the lawsuits that were coming along collectively, and majority of them were coming from two specific groups. One of them gender-based, being women, specifically being accosted, if that's a better word to use, by male police officers. The second one would be immigrants. You had a lot of these police accompanying the INS and many other different agencies that were going after immigrants or whatever. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I saw them do it for a straight week when I lived in the Bronx. A straight week. They would sit on the block and they would wait for some of these guys, because it was these Peruvian guys, and they used to be on, I think it was Boston. So they would be up there, and all the guys would get in the truck, and they would go to work. And ain't nothing wrong with that, yeah? So they would go to work or whatever the case may be, and I guess the INS van was sitting there waiting fucking for them when they got back. They grabbed these guys, talked to these guys, whatever the case may be or whatever, and they arrested a few of them, and the other ones they put right in the van. We watched it right in front of us. And I remember, and I recall, if I'm right, I remember when he was arguing actually with one of the INS officers or whatever, And I said, okay, I can see how this could be a prelude to this. So the reason they stopped stop and frisk and they elected to amend it, because it goes coinciding with another bill. And it was an amendment in that original bill that actually allowed stop and frisk to come into fruition. So a lot of you guys don't know how laws work or whatever. Amendments can now give you options, okay? So they took it away. Now at the time they took it away, Adams was still a police chief. I think he was a captain at that point. But later on, maybe a year later, he became a chief. Maybe 2 years later at the tops. And so it was taken away during his constituency and his administration as far as that capacity. It was taken away from him as an option to utilize amongst his officers that were in his, particular precinct or whatever the case may be, or he commanded rather. That was almost maybe 7, 8 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. Now you take this incident that happened, and now you take the 5 to 6 previous incidents that happened just this year with people being pushed in front of subway cars, killed. We had a woman down in Chinatown that was stabbed to death by a man following her into her fucking apartment. She had just moved to New York from Ohio. Just moved to New York. That's why I keep telling y'all, don't move to fucking New York right now. I know it seems real tempting. I know the low prices get you or whatever, but it's a fucking shit show down there. It's a fucking shit show. Don't go there. It's your first time showing up here. I curse, smoke cigarettes, talk shit. But I'm honest. Let me tell you something. One of the things that's got me perplexed right now is the fact, not only did they catch this man on the same train line which he committed the atrocities. No, it's not just that. It's the fact that they didn't show the arrest. They just said he was arrested. They didn't show us or frame his picture in front of the cameras, usually like they do most criminals. They have not addressed the fact of where specifically he is from in the United States right now. There's 3 different addresses up in the air: Arizona, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, which a lot of people are saying this is where he originated from initially. But I know, using U-Haul, that a lot of times people will drop off a van from whatever state at U-Haul, and then they will rent you that van, whatever those tags are on that van. What happened down in Sunset Park was a tragedy, nevertheless, if it happened. But if this is a faux type of I don't even want to say advocacy because that's the wrong word, right? This is some type of faux type of approach or another to try to get people to go back into stop and frisk, I think they're going to win. And if that's not the case, I think they will utilize, and I do mean this, I think they will utilize the opportunity of the shooting to further try to advocate and bring stop and frisk back. There's plus and minuses to that. There's plus and minuses to it. The plus side is you get a reason now to stop people. And if I didn't underline, I wanted to underline this. And I'm going to say this very clearly for you guys. You might not like the way I say it. This motherfucker left behind not only a bag with federal grade fireworks in it, but he left behind a hatchet. He left behind a gun. The gun jammed after being fired, I believe it said 50 or 60 times. And what else did he leave behind? His keys to the U-Haul van. His keys to the U-Haul van. So you left the keys to the getaway van. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? You were walking entirely too close to me. Acting like a sissy. And I don't know what, I just got to go into a segue real quick. I don't know what it is about Latino guys, but they will be in the smallest positions and they will think they are some head honcho boss. And I'm like, where did you go to college? And it ends the whole conversation. Like, this guy has a whole row to walk in and he chooses to walk next to me and talk loud on his phone because he wants me to look at him. I'm a guy. You should never want a guy to look at you and pay attention to you. I just had to say that because I find that with a lot of Latino guys. They want you to pay attention to them. Why? Are you educated? Where did you go to college? What is this discussion about? You know what I mean? And I find it's mostly about bravado. And me being half Latino, I just find it funny because I'm not that type of Latino. That guy, he looked like the fucking help. Anyway, My point I was getting at is this, man. You can't pull the wool over my head and tell me one way or another that this is either a trick and it's going to be utilized to further legislation or reinstate laws that they previously used in the past, like stop and frisk. But at the same time, there's a probability that this might be real. Now, they said everybody survived. The numbers went up from 6, I think it was initially, up to 10. And I said, okay, I can understand that. Then after that, something else happened. 29 hours later, this guy can't decide whether or not he could go to Jersey, he could come to Connecticut, he could go to another borough. No, he stays in the same fucking neighborhood. Damn near it. You're on the N train line. You stay in the same damn neighborhood? Does that make sense? Hey, what's going on in that? I saw you just call. That's why I told you be calling me and I'll be on live. Oh, we're talking about the shooter and them capturing the shooter today and how it's odd that the shooter was captured. Well, I know the train line. So he was captured on the N&R train line, which initially, when you ride all the way down to the Sunset Park down there where the shooting actually happens, only a couple stops. Quite literally a couple stops. Minutes within each other, maybe 10, 15 minutes, maybe a little bit, a little less. So the minutes in front of each other, and they caught him, and if I had to make a guess where they caught him was on Rector Street. And I know that area, partied down in that area, had drinks down in that area. So I know the area, you know? And so I was just like, okay, why is the news hiding anything of this? YouTubers? There's always somebody with a camera. Y'all see how much shit I done recorded on here? Well, we had like 2,000 plus videos. So, you know, like, you know, it's like when I see people, and what I really think is going on here, like I said, I think this has a political twist to it. I think that it didn't make any sense to deploy police officers to every single high-end subway station, if you want to say, because this particular subway station in Sunset Park didn't even have operational cameras. That's what they say. That's what they say. So they didn't even have operational cameras at this one. So that goes to show you the degradation that a lot of these train stations have had. A lot of these train stations have closed down the token booths. I mean, the token booths where they have actually somebody operating in the booth. A lot of these train stations don't have that anymore, and they've opted out for these electronic signatures with PayPal, and you can use, I think, Apple Pay and Google Pay with them. A lot of things have changed, you know? So to save money, a lot of these stations, they don't have a teller there anymore. So that goes to show that they definitely can't afford, because they have a budget federally for MTA. So if they can't afford that, even with government stipends given from the COVID-19 relief for them, they got billions. They still got more billions running in. I think the first initial billions was from the first COVID bill, and they still have some money coming in from the second COVID bill, as well as Connecticut here where I live at as well. Hopefully we'll get rid of that crooked ass governor we got here. Well, that's a crooked motherfucker. Let me tell you about that COVID money. They talk about these guys that took $1 million, $2 million, whatever, right? We had 2 constituents here in Connecticut that oversaw. We got a whole bunch of counties here in Connecticut. So we had two of our electives go up there to Foxwoods Casino and show their ass and spend up your COVID relief money that they're supposed to be using it for the people of the counties. Connecticut's always had problems with its politicians. Right here where I live at, right here in Stamford, Connecticut, it took them up until the 2000s. I forgot which one of those Kennedy brothers it was here. We've had a mayor here elected. I remember Mayor Giordano out in where was that at? One of the little small ass towns out there. New Britain, Mayor Giordano. He got sent to jail for bringing little girls to his office to have sex with them, a prostitute. We had our Governor Rowland, who was tough on crime and ended up going to jail his damn self. We had, who else we have? We had Eddie Perez in Hartford, Connecticut, who was the mayor up there. He ended up going to jail. Like, we got a history of crooked politicians here in Connecticut, make no lie about it, make no jokes about it. We always have. It's an opulent area, you know. I know it well. Grew up here. most all my life. So it's like when you look at this situation, and I say it politically, make no mistake about it, there have been operas, there's been plays, there's been theater bits, and there's been actual fucking events that have happened that if you put the right edit on it, and I know because y'all watch my uploads, I think I'm a pretty good guy at editing. I went to college for it. I went to college for digital media, if you guys don't know. But it's funny to me that you know, I've done it myself when I do my uploads. I can edit something to make it look like a whole totally different narrative behind it, literally, you know. And sometimes I do it in funny, you know, like I'll throw in little jokes, little puns or whatever. Some other people utilize that same footage and they'll throw a narrative that may be kind of insidious, you know what I mean, or to be utilized in the near future. I think they're going to take this situation and they're going to use it as a reason to bring back stop and frisk. And I'm partial about it because on one end, yes, it would curb these subway attacks. I don't want to see no woman getting pushed in front of a subway, especially in front of me. I don't want to see no chick that just getting home from wherever she's coming from, walking in her apartment, and some wicked wacko was following behind her and stabs her up. I don't want to see none of that shit, you know? But I got sisters, man, you know what I'm saying? So I feel that shit, you know? And I guess I don't have that same scare with me, you know what I mean? But on the other hand, if you bring this back, once the threat is over, what does that leave? And that's the question you got to ponder. Once the threat is over, and how long does it subside? How long will it stay? Is it something that you feel is an immediate action or immediate measure to kind of quell the temperament, if you want to say, within the city? I don't think it'll do that. I think if anything, it'll make them act even more wild. Not only do I think it'll make them act even more wild, I think what'll ultimately end up happening, I think when you compile the price of food, when you compile the number of different, I can't even imagine how many landlords at this point have been trying to evict people from their homes and shit like that or whatever. When you put all that and compile it all together, you got a clusterfuck of a time bomb getting ready to go off down there. You know? And these people, don't get me wrong, these people in New York that are in New York right now, the bulk of them are not bad people. It's the few in between that this, and I think a lot of it's out of desolation. I think a lot of it's out of desolation. People have been alone for 2-3 years, in some cases damn near. I mean, we're almost into May, so we're going into a third year. People have been isolated. I remember even when the pandemic was going on, I was going down to, you know, catch the train, things like that or whatever. I would see people sleeping in the subway, you know what I mean? And during the bulk of the pandemic, when I was still living down there, I would see the same thing. And these people had no human interaction whatsoever. And if you don't have any human interaction, after a while, what will happen is mentally, you'll start to subjugate yourself and say to yourself, you know what, I don't have anybody. And I know this feeling, not because I had that same demise, but I know this feeling because I was part of that. When this pandemic was going on, I didn't talk to a lot of people. And I was lucky that I was blogging still at the time, not only so I could bring out the realities of what was going on down there, but also so you could see something else. So you could see that primarily, no matter if these people are homeless, if these people are housed, or whatever the case may be, a mental condition is a mental condition. Mental illness is mental illness, regardless. They are now talking about a terminology within the medical world right now that dictates to a certain regard that people might be, how can I say it? People might be ailing from a form of depression and trauma brought on from the pandemic. And they're specifically pointing it out in kids, women, and then adult men. And I find with adult men, it goes in two quadrants. It goes from like younger men until the extreme of older men, like 49 and above. You know what I'm saying? So it's like 25 and under, whatever. I might be skewed on the demographics, a number or two, but pretty much it's around that proportion rationally. It's sad, man, because this is the same thing. If this thing is real with the Sunset Park shooting, and this is actually something that happened, it wasn't televised to deceive. One of the things that's scary is there's more men out there like him in other cities, you know, not just New York City, but many other cities. So we as everybody likes to say the community and all that shit. We got to watch. Motherfuckers are behind us. Now, I just told Annette Foster the last time I was on the phone with her, I said, you know, people are fucking crazy out here, you know? And I know she thought I was payroll or probably crazy or whatever, and then boom, look. And I was talking to her specifically about the subway. So if this is true, it's just like, wow, it's crazy. Crazy. He called Crime Stoppers. Yet Tokyo Tony's daughter, Black China. I never seen OnlyFans. Alcaro said, yes. By the way, I'm listening to Star last night and his comment on Benzino. I listened to that what he said about Benzino, and I know what you're talking about, the transgender or something. I know nothing about that. I like I don't think it stands in the way, if this answers your question, I don't think that stands in the way of whether or not Benzino is a legitimate father, which I think he is, you know. I say, like I said yesterday, and I won't further phantom away from that. I think if it was mine, I'm not married and I don't have any kids. I live by myself. You understand what I'm saying? So I got a lot of options. Now, I'm talking about as far as the dating world's concerned, things like that or whatever. But him and Athea, I think that's what her name is, they've been together since like 2001, 2002, something like that. Said they've been trying since 2004 up until now. She said, we just tried again just recently. And it didn't work out. Now, the common denominator that they both share is they got a 14-year-old daughter. And your ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, whatever she is to you, decides to bring a guy that she's only known for 2 fucking weeks over to the house that presumably you bought or rent or paid for or whatever, in whatever capacity, and he's got an overnight bag there while your 14-year-old daughter is there. You know, that was my whole thing right there. Because most guys I know, I mean, and excuse my French if you ain't a pussy, you know, most guys I know, if they show up in that same regard, they're not coming there to fucking talk. You got a fucking guy around my 14-year-old daughter, he's got a fucking night bag here, and you knew this guy for 2 weeks? At least ease me into it. Hey, this is a new boyfriend. Listen, we're gonna meet at fucking, you know, Olive Garden or some shit. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't let someone show up, and you met the guy on the golf course. So, you know, that was my whole thing with that yesterday. He said I needed that laugh. That sun killing me, fam, says Rail. Well, it's going down now. How about that? Ain't nothing wrong with looking. That must have been, yeah. Listen, man, this is hot ass. She's older though. Like, she's definitely older than me, but she's like this hot ass. I don't know what she is. She might be Puerto Rican, but she's older. She got to be like a little 50 shun or whatever. She is fun as fuck. And I was here yesterday and she passed by me. So I'm assuming that she doesn't live, I'm like not too far away from where I live and shit. So this is crazy. But she was good looking. Video footage looks good. Nice sunlight. Now let me tell you, video footage looks good because of TMH Global. Because let me tell you something. When my fucking phone got fucked up, I went through 2 phases of my phone in the streaming world, right? I went through one phase where I didn't have enough data and I think I got cut off for like 2 months or something. I mean like a month. On streaming because I had overcharges. So I had to pay the overcharges. These guys, they got me out of that with the donations and everything like that. And guys, please donate, $STRINGERBELL80. If you have any questions for me, just write them in the comments section. I will reply, but please donate to that. So I took the donations, paid off that. And then he donated to me again. And I didn't get the phone that I wanted because the original phone that I wanted it specifically for the camera. And it was the I think it was the S21. I didn't get that, but I ended up getting the phone that was like a step down from it, but had some of the same capabilities, plus some better ones. You know what I mean? Like the other camera didn't have 4K. My phone that I had at the time had 4K, so it worked out, you know? So that was like, that was fucking cool. You know what I mean? Real cool. As far as like, that's a tough one. Let me read that again. I used to like watch. I want to read that one more time. So I just make sure I answer this right. Now that part I didn't know, Antoine Queens. She said that, but purchased the firearm in the early 2000s. That I didn't know. Wow, that I didn't know. Somebody else, K. Cole, says that part. Thank you, K. Cole. He says salute, Davin. And the time of Ted Bundy, it was Ted Bundy. It was no social media No facial recognitions. It's definitely a different era. Ted had more than 10 bodies. Exactly. She know what I'm talking about. Ted Bundy. Queen of Weaves. She says, yeah, so true. Ted Bundy looked trustworthy. We can't go by looks. There you go. So I get that portion of the conversation y'all were talking about. Yeah, you can't go by looks. Some of the most notorious motherfuckers I ever met in the music industry always had a smile, you know? And I always revert back to something my grandmother told all of us. I'm like the second oldest grandkid. And my grandmother used to tell us, I don't trust people that smile all the time. And I knew where she took it from because she was from Lynchburg, Virginia. You know what I'm saying? So I can imagine what her times were growing up or whatever the case may be. But I'm pretty sure she reverted it towards racism and her being a victim of it. And at that time period anyway. Could you imagine living in Lynchburg, Virginia, doing like the fucking 30s and 40s? My grandmother lived to be, I think, was 97, 98 years old or something like that. God bless her heart. So, you know, she witnessed all that, and that's how she viewed the world to a certain extent. Now, when people smile, it can mean a litany of different things. Some people smile at you because they fear you. That smile I don't like. And I get more offended when somebody notices that I acknowledge that, and then they get upset. Like, how psychologically does that fucking work out? I don't know. The other thing is, I think, is that there's another batch of people that smile out of sarcasm, and it's almost a way to demean you. And I have a particular set of ways that I deal with that. You know, depending on the environment, I might, if you're too aggressive, I'll let you know, hey, I will knock you the fuck out, and I guarantee you can't beat me. You know, and what I mean by that, I'm not the toughest guy around or anything like that or whatever, but I will put you on your ass. I think I've proven that point a couple of times now. But some people, under their stupor or being drunk or on drugs or whatever the case may be, will put you in positions where you have no other choice. If I was on that train that day, all those people should have rushed that motherfucker as soon as he started shooting. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes you have to use force. But most of the time, I'll just, you know, dismiss it as with a sarcastic comment or ignore it most of the time. I say 80% of the time I just do the ignoring thing because you can't go fighting everybody. But if you do too much, I have no hesitation. You know, and I think every person should have that, especially when you're taking part what happened on that train yesterday in New York City. Have no hesitation. My dad taught me that. That's why sometimes when I hit them, they don't even realize I didn't hit them. I have no hesitation when it comes to that. If you're threatening me or I feel like I'm in danger, you know, all bets are off. Most people in the past that I've seen, Richard Ramirez, Ted Bundy, numerous narcissistic, obnoxious motherfuckers I worked with in offices, they tend to have a smile with them when they're getting ready to fuck you. And I've noticed that nowadays, there's a lot of women that do the exact same model, which I think they got it from a batch of insidious men or insidious women with insidious intentions. And when I see somebody smile at me, I have to really, really analyze why the fuck you're exactly smiling for. So I hope you understand that or whatever. And I hope anybody that's heard this, which I know y'all heard because y'all ain't pressing the like button and everything else. To anybody that hears me clear, I hope you understand that, you know. Didn't Mr. Adams say he wanted to bring back tourists? What a way to go figure. Exactly. He wants to bring back tourism. Davin, what's up? I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento. The East Coast is crazier than Cali, says Queen of Weaves. Queen of Weaves used a motherfucking lie, too. Sacramento this last week. What was it, last Sunday or the Sunday before last, was it? It was either last Sunday, the Sunday before last. They just had a shooting out there. The guy was riding, it was some club. The majority of the people that were at the club were black and Latino. I seen a couple whites here and there. The first initial videos, what I saw was some Latino guys fighting each other. But as it's coming clearer and clearer, these guys, some guys, I don't know who, because we got to say speculative, because I haven't seen any video or anything else pop up since. But the guys were riding around the block and shooting. And they were trying to determine where the shots were coming from, and that's the reason they couldn't determine, because it was somebody riding around the block shooting over and over and over. And I think in that incident, 16 people were shot. So that was actually more than the people in New York. So I don't know about that. I think you're just trying to big up your neighborhood, but that's all right. Shout out to Cali, though. I know Cali very well. Cali's definitely another one of my homes. I got friends out in Cali. My sister's out in Cali. Shout out to Modesto. You know what I mean? Oakland, all that shit. Yes, West Coast English is very different. Most, from what I know, and I forgot what the terminology is of someone that studies language, but I'm not a linguist per se, but I speak two other different languages. But I'm not a linguist as far as deciphering. You know, I'm not going to decipher Latin for you, some shit like that. You know what I mean? Copy cryptic messages from the Illuminati or read hieroglyphics or something. But yeah, West Coast accents are very different. I think over here in the East Coast, most of our dialect, especially in the Northwest, most of our dialect is taken from the English, the Dutch, and yeah, I would say the English and the Dutch more so than anybody. Like, the reason I say that because here in Connecticut, this is part of the 13 colonies, so I don't know if a lot of you don't know, but Connecticut is where you start, in my opinion, at New England, okay? And it's even more or less here than it is once you get out to where, like, well, I used to live at Niantic areas, shit like that, but it's like, you hear, even here, compared to where I used to live at, the accents are different. You know what I'm saying? Very different, but even both of them are northeast. But I would say here, because this is part of the second batch of 13 colonies from Massachusetts on down to Connecticut, we definitely have an English, Quakerish, who was those guys? Gnostic, you know what I mean? Type of twang in our voices. It's very New England. The accent is very different from New York, where New York is a Dutch colony. And so they have a different twang, and like I think the only place else that's really on the East Coast that really sticks out there like that I know of, that I've stayed at, would definitely be Florida, and the other one would be Maryland. I haven't stayed in Maryland, but my aunt lived in Maryland, my great aunt, for a very, very long time with her husband, and she adapted that accent after a while, where it's like almost like a hard-edged Dutch, like, you know, when Dutch people are, it's from the dialect of Dutch. And so, you know, being that those were the people there at the time, heavily, I guess, you know, the influence would be there. But I could definitely tell when somebody's from the Northeast, New England, New York, or New Jersey, just like that. Like I could tell. I've done that so many times. I could tell when you're from a foreign country, even if you, like, a lot of people that are from foreign countries, like, and they've been here for a while, one thing they'll try to do is they'll try to hide their accent. Don't tell me it's a fucking farce. My dad's Caribbean, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. That's the first thing that a lot of Caribbean parents or fucking Middle Eastern parents, Chinese parents, everybody teaches their kids, hide your accent. They're not gonna accept you unless you hide your accent. And it's a fucking lie. You know what I mean? It's a fucking lie. It's so much of a lie. Because I grew up around white kids, and I say this all the time. I grew up around nothing but Italians and Greeks. And I can tell you straight up and down, when you do that shit, the first thing those white kids pick up on, those same white kids you're trying to impress, they pick up on you as being like how can I say it, like a poser. You know what I mean? And it puts you in a funny dynamic. So sometimes it's all right to talk about your culture around white people. I've seen people that are like Caribbean or from the islands or from different countries, they'll even hide talking about their culture because they're around their white friends. And I'm like, well, they would respect you more if you did talk about yourself, you know? I don't know. Some people, they just don't get that. Different people have different takes on assimilation. I'm not a dissimulist myself. It's worked out for me. I mean, I worked for a record company for over 17 years. I think it worked out. You know what I mean? So being an assimilist and assimilating to, I guess you would say, culture, work environment, school, whatever the case may be, it won't work in your best interest in the end, because you'll only be ever put in a position where you're serving others, you know? And so many people, I think they make the mistake of working in the service industry as actual income. It's not really income, it's regurgitated income, meaning like it's going to be put right back out as soon as you get it. You're not investing, you're not, you know what I mean? Like, so like regurgitated income-based jobs, they never really pan out well, especially in this economy and where we're headed. Even the former security of having like a CEO position is up for grab now. You know what I'm saying? And you don't even have the education to do that, so you don't even fit that bill. You know what I mean? So I don't know. All right, guys, I made sure I said everybody, what's up, what's going on. Thank you so much for everybody tuning in. I will be back with you guys later. 305 Capricorn, Antoine, Annette, I'm gonna call you back. And yeah, man, I appreciate all y'all, whatever. Listen, before I get up out of here though, there's an event that I want to go to this weekend. I should be there. So make sure y'all hit up that Cash App, man. You know, one part of our business is I gotta mingle, I gotta move around, you know, and getting back in here, whatever, I gotta, you know, do the shits and giggles. Hey, how are you? And all that shit or whatever, you know. So really, this weekend there's an event that I want to be at, and I would appreciate it. 20, 10, 15. Try to match TMH Global with the $150 donation that he just gave yesterday. I appreciate that, or whatever. But I've got so many things to do and a couple events to go to, and I'm willing to even stream from some of the events that I go to. So you'll get a +2. And on top of that, as an added incentive, if I mess with you like that, I might even give you some connections. So make sure, guys, that you donate. It's $STRINGERBELL80. That's Stringer Bell 80. The link is in the description box. If you don't catch it there, you can catch it in a pinned comment down below, or just go to one of my older videos and watch those, or either, and make sure you share. Share this video. Share, and comment every time. Guys, thank you. I'm glad y'all been so humble to be with me for this past 2 hours. And I will talk to you guys later. Please donate. I want to go to this freaking event this weekend, and I'll live stream from there. Y'all gonna be real surprised where I'm at if I make it there. So hit up that Cash App, y'all. $STRINGERBELL80. And I'm out of here, y'all, bitch.